So Dr. Chase works at Lockheed Martin, and then he is affiliation is called UnLAB, and Dr. Chase will tell you more about that. He is a founder and a director of the UnLAB, a nonprofit dedicated to researching and developing breakthrough technologies. Previously, he was a senior technical fellow at the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, where he ran the Revolutionary Technology Programs Organization, leading and inspiring a world-class multidisciplinary team responsible for the conception, development, and transition of transformative technologies. Ladies and gentlemen, I have Dr. Chase for you. Thank you.
You know, when I was a boy, my dad retired, sold his clothing business in New York and went to Palm Springs, California. So when I was growing up, I just, you know, I saw people driving around in Cadillacs and playing golf all day, and I didn't know about this working business. You know, that just wasn't part of my reality. I was too busy playing with my Hot Wheels in my backyard. But reality was a little different. And, you know, I dropped out of high school and never quite finished high school. And I was a cook for 10 years. So I worked as a cook, one place there, Lord Fletcher's in Palm Springs, as a line cook and a sous chef. And, but I was always very interested in, you know, science. In school, I really loved science, and I knew that being a cook was not what I was going to do for my entire life. And I went back to school to junior colleges, and I went to College of the Desert in Palm Springs, and also College of San Mateo up in the Bay Area. I also had some thoughts of being a tennis player, so I played on the tennis team at College of the Desert, which was a lot of fun. And I was able to you know, get in all the science courses I needed, and you know, through and it was a little different back then, I think, than now. I was working my way through college. You know, we didn't get any student loans like my son has some student loans, and so I was working my way through college. And then as a junior, I transferred to UC Berkeley. You know, I was very excited to get into Berkeley, and I majored in electrical engineering and computer science. And I tell you, it was a really big step up academically, going from the junior colleges to UC Berkeley. And I found I couldn't, you know, I had been working full time all the time at the junior colleges and going to school. I couldn't do that at Berkeley. You know, the workload was too great, but it was very rewarding and, you know, very exciting to learn all the different things. And I interviewed with several companies right from UC Berkeley. And one of those was the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. And so that's where I went to work right straight out of UC Berkeley. I moved back down to Burbank. We were in Burbank then. And let's see if I can go on to the next slide here. There we go. Yeah, and so I went straight to work at the Skunk Works. As an engineer, I was a low observable engineer on the 117A production program when that was first being built. And that was very exciting. It was, again, another major transition, I think. You know, going from being a cook to studying science and engineering, going from junior college, then to UC Berkeley, and then UC Berkeley to being an engineer. You know, I had no engineers in my family. There are no scientists, no engineers. I really didn't know what engineers did. And so I was pretty darn nervous starting at Lockheed, but man, it turned out really well, because it was, you know, there was a lot of guidance and yet also a lot of freedom and ability to make your own path. And I'd say that's something about the Skunk Works culture that is very unique, is the ability to either be part of a design team where you're working with a whole bunch of other different engineers developing a new system, and that's very exciting, all the way to being your own entrepreneur and kind of creating your own thing inside the Skunk Works. And so that, I think I was there 35 years or so. So, I'm retired now from there, but had a lot of different experiences, and, leading the Revolutionary Technology Programs group was one of my favorite. I always said that the best thing I ever was working on was what I was working on at that moment, because that's kind of my attitude, really. And, also I'm very proud that I was able to come up with some inventions that transitioned to production programs. They're still being used today. So a lot of satisfaction. And as you noted, I just have a BS. So I'm not a doctor. A lot of people say doctor because I've done a lot of scientific things. And I'm more of an explorer, I would say. I'm a cross between an engineer and a scientist. I'm an explorer. So I'm always looking for the high-risk things that can really make a significant difference and really change and help humanity. And so that's kind of led to what my partner Kate and I are doing now. Since I've retired from Lockheed, we have a nonprofit organization called the UnLAB. And we're dedicated to making the ideas happen, disruptive ideas, without a profit motive, without a prestige motive, without a publishing motive. Our motive is really to speak for the ideas and to do what we can to encourage those ideas, either by seeding them somewhere, collaborating with people, or forming a team and actually doing the work. So we do all those different things. And then we also try to encourage dialogue and collaborations by bringing people together. A little different now with the pandemic compared to what we used to do. And we're working some fundamental research grants. We're lucky to have support from the Office of Naval Research, from DARPA, and from another nonprofit called the Limitless Space Institute. And these are all activities looking at technologies that can really change our lives and change the environment. And I just want to highlight, I think, this is one example of something that we're looking at now, and it's kind of an audacious question. Can we generate forces and energy from the vacuum, from just free space, from, can we take energy out of that, or forces out of that we can use for propulsion, for powering things? And so we have a couple of projects working on that. One in conjunction with UCLA, Princeton, and Stanford. We've shown that you can, a difference in fluctuations between a nanoparticle and outside the nanoparticle is actually a temperature difference, but the difference in fluctuations will cause the thing to rotate, and you can generate torque power that way. And then this other idea of generating propulsion without propellant, so you can accelerate to really high speeds, potentially close to light speed, which is kind of amazing. Or you can reposition satellites without using fuel. So those are extremely high risk. The physics are not certain, but we have some, and I forgot to mention, we're working with Technion out of Israel in the asymmetric potential work. It's all based on really solid science. So these sort of things would change the world. And I think I have a couple of minutes left. I just had a couple of more points I wanted to make. Is, one thing that I've really learned is that everything is an interaction. And this is not only from a science standpoint with those vacuum fluctuations I mentioned. Those are actually really just interactions. When we talk about seeing an atom with a scanning tunneling microscope, we're really just seeing an interaction between the microscope and the surface. We don't actually see the atom itself. And us too, you and I, we are our interactions, and so I always wonder what kind of interactions are we going to have? Are they going to be positive interactions? Are they going to be happy interactions? Are you going to be miserable? You can never control what input you're going to get into yourself. but you can respond rather than react, and you can have a positive interaction. And that's kind of the way intent works. So what I have found is that, if you have an intent and you keep your focus on that intent, no matter what the interactions are that you have, that you can make that actually happen. And I've been able to do that. And I think that everyone here listening, you have the opportunity to make what you want happen if you have that intent and you keep your positive interactions, and you just keep moving in that forward direction. And so we really believe the UnLAB, we believe in unlimited abundance. And so what does that really mean? Unlimited abundance. I really think that there is not a limit to what we can create and do. People throughout history have always thought they were limited, or this isn't going to work, you can't do this. But it turns out, us humans, we can take things like iron ore, and then by recombining how we do it, the interactions of the whole thing, we can turn it into the sphere from the World's Fair. And so we can continue to do that. The things that we have, we can put together in new ways to increase abundance. And I don't think there's a limit to that. So, I want to leave with that message of optimism.
So we have one idea, one question, say, what idea do you think will have the greatest effect on the society today?
What idea? So I always, I look to energy and generating energy, because that really drives all the things that we're able to do. That's, above that. And so new ways of creating energy, be it a new approach to hot fusion, like Lockheed was working on and other people are working on, be it harvesting energy from the vacuum, be it renewable energy and ways of storing that energy, I think are really key. And if you have lots of energy, you can do things like carbon sequestration. And so you would be able to afford to do that, and use some of the technologies that exist now if the energy is plentiful and abundant enough.
Thank you. And then the next question is, we got quite a few good questions. How does someone propose an idea to your nonprofit organization?
Oh, so yeah, we love new collaborations, right? And we love ideas. Please send me an email.
Another question is, why is it called Skunk Works?
Oh, that's a long story that goes back to when the Skunk Works was first founded by Kelly Johnson, and they were building the first jet fighter back in World War II. And they had to do it in a circus tent. There wasn't any room in the factories in Burbank. And they built a circus tent. And there was a plastic factory next door. And the environmental considerations weren't what they are today. So the fumes from the plastic would come into the circus tent where they were building the first jet fighter. And some guy answered the phone, Skunk Works, which was an outtake from a cartoon of those days, and the name stuck. I understand Kelly was not happy with it at first, but Kelly Johnson, who founded the Skunk Works, it's kind of a long answer there, but that's where that name came from.